A man's worth is not measured by what he can take, but by what he chooses to leave untouched. The wise do not seek shortcuts to fulfillment, nor do they exploit what is still growing, for there is no honor in plucking an unripe fruit. You may be tempted by the illusion of youth, the freshness of inexperience, but remember this: a real man is not driven by impulse but by virtue. The foolish chase what they can momentarily possess, while the wise build legacies that stand beyond their own time. Patience is the guardian of wisdom, just as a river carves mountains not by force but by persistence. A strong character is built through restraint. If she is younger, never take advantage of her naivety, never lead where you should guide, and never act where you should wait. True strength is found in protection, not in conquest. Control your desires before they control you. What is easy to gain is often worthless. A man who seeks temporary pleasure will always be empty, but a man who builds discipline will never be without purpose. If you let your impulses rule, you will one day look back and see not a life of honor, but a path of regret. Instead, be the kind of man who inspires, who educates, and who uplifts. Leave behind a mark of wisdom, not a stain of recklessness, for the world will not remember you for what you took, but for what you built. Choose virtue over vanity, character over convenience, and honor over indulgence. Discipline over desire is the foundation of a strong and virtuous life. A man who allows his desires to dictate his actions is a slave to them, never truly free, always chasing, always unsatisfied. Desire is fleeting. It promises fulfillment but delivers only emptiness. A disciplined man, however, does not let his emotions control him. He controls his emotions. He understands that the path to greatness requires mastery over himself before he can ever hope to master anything else. There is a dangerous illusion in believing that what we want in the moment is what is best for us in the long run. Many have fallen into ruin not because they lacked talent or intelligence, but because they lacked control. They mistook impulse for opportunity and passion for purpose. The world is filled with men who pursued fleeting pleasures only to be left with permanent consequences. They did not think of tomorrow because they were too focused on today. But a wise man understands that the actions of today shape the man of tomorrow. He knows that discipline is the greatest weapon he can wield against regret. To be disciplined means to understand the nature of desire itself. Desire, by its very nature, is in saturation. The more you feed it, the stronger it becomes. A man who always indulges his impulses will soon find himself ruled by them. He will chase one pleasure after another, never realizing that he is not in control. His desires are. What he thinks is freedom is actually enslavement. He believes he is doing what he wants, but in reality, he is being pulled by invisible chains. The more he satisfies his urges, the more they demand from him. The only way to break free is to master self-control. A disciplined man does not live by impulse, but by principle. He does not take action simply because it feels good in the moment. He takes action because it is the right thing to do. He understands that the easy path is rarely the correct one. Resisting desire is not weakness. It is the greatest form of strength. It is easy to give in. It is difficult to resist. But true fulfillment comes not from temporary pleasures, but from long-term virtue. The greatest men in history were not those who indulged in every whim, but those who had the strength to say no. They understood that real power is not found in taking what you can, but in having the discipline to refuse what you should not have. It is not wrong to feel desire, but it is dangerous to let it rule you. Feelings are natural, but they are not always wise. A disciplined man acknowledges his emotions, but does not let them dictate his actions. He does not suppress his desires, nor does he act on them recklessly. He controls them. He channels his energy into pursuits that build, not destroy. He does not seek pleasure at the expense of his integrity. He understands that a moment of weakness can lead to a lifetime of regret. Discipline is not about denying yourself happiness. It is about ensuring that your happiness is real and lasting. It is about choosing what is good over what is easy. There will always be temptations. This world is full of them. But a man who lets temptation define him will never know true peace. He will always be searching, always restless. But a man who builds discipline will find that he no longer needs to chase anything. He will stand firm, unshaken, content in the knowledge that he is in control of himself. A disciplined man is not moved by the desires of the moment because he sees beyond them. He does not live for today alone, but for a lifetime of honor. He understands that the greatest victories are won not against others but against oneself. To control one's own mind, one's own desires, one's own impulses, that is the highest form of strength. So, when faced with temptation, when your desires whisper to you, urging you to take the easy road, remember this: every moment is a choice between fleeting pleasure and lasting virtue, between weakness and strength, between regret and honor. And in the end, the man you become will be shaped not by what you wanted, but by what you had the discipline to refuse. The power of patience is one of the greatest virtues a man can cultivate. It is the ability to endure, to wait, to hold firm when emotions pull in every direction. Many believe that patience is passive, a weakness, a lack of action. In reality, patience is one of the most difficult and powerful disciplines to master. It is not merely waiting for something to happen. It is the ability to restrain oneself when acting impulsively would bring harm. It is knowing that everything has its time, and forcing what is not ready only leads to ruin. A man ruled by emotions is like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the wind takes him. He reacts rather than thinks. He acts on impulse rather than wisdom. He seeks instant gratification, unable to endure the discomfort of waiting. But the wise man understands that everything valuable in life takes time. The strongest trees do not grow overnight. They take years to build their roots deep into the earth. The most enduring relationships are not formed in moments, but through years of trust, understanding, and growth. The greatest achievements are not made in haste, but through patience and perseverance. Youth is filled with urgency. There is a belief that everything must happen now, that waiting is wasting time, but this is a deception. Many great mistakes are made because people rush into things they do not fully understand. They chase desires without considering consequences. They push ahead without preparation. They destroy what could have been great simply because they could not wait for it to mature. A man who lacks patience will always find himself trapped in cycles of disappointment, repeating the same mistakes because he refuses to slow down and think. Patience is not inaction. It is strategic restraint. It is the ability to see the bigger picture, to understand that not every battle is worth fighting now, and that some things require time to develop. A man who is patient does not act on every impulse. He does not allow emotions to dictate his behavior. He does not force things that are not ready. He knows that just as fruit must ripen before it can be enjoyed, certain aspects of life must unfold naturally. To rush them is to destroy them. Many times in life, patience is the difference between success and failure. A man who is patient in his ambitions does not seek shortcuts. He does not try to force his way to the top without the necessary foundation. He knows that true success is built over time, through effort and endurance. A man who is patient in his relationships does not manipulate or rush things. He respects the process of growth, allowing trust and connection to form naturally. A man who is patient with himself does not expect perfection immediately. He understands that mastery takes time, that discipline is built through consistent effort, and that wisdom is gained in moments of frustration, when everything seems to be moving too slowly. A man must remind himself of the power of patience. He must remember that what comes quickly often fades just as fast, but what is built with patience lasts. He must recognize that waiting is not losing time, but preparing for the right moment. He must understand that patience is not just about enduring delay. It is about maintaining control over oneself, resisting the urge to act prematurely, and trusting that the right opportunities will come when they are meant to. A life ruled by impatience is a life filled with regret. Decisions made in haste often lead to pain. Words spoken in anger often cause damage that cannot be undone. Actions taken without thought often lead to consequences that could have been avoided. But a man who masters patience walks a different path. He builds instead of destroys. He endures instead of consumes. He understands that the ability to wait, to control his impulses, to trust the process of time, is what separates the weak from the strong, the reckless from the wise, the temporary from the eternal. Respecting the natural order of things is a principle that many overlook in their pursuit of immediate gratification. Ignoring this truth leads to suffering, while respecting it leads to wisdom. Impatience is the enemy of progress. Many believe they can manipulate time, that they can bypass essential steps and force an outcome simply because they desire it. But nature does not work that way. A fruit picked too early is bitter. A relationship forced into something it is not ready to be will crumble. A man who seeks wisdom without the patience to learn will remain ignorant. There is no shortcut to greatness, no fast track to mastery, no way to force something into existence before it is meant to be. Those who attempt to do so often find themselves in regret, wishing they had waited, wishing they had respected the natural course of things. One of the greatest mistakes a man can make is trying to mold something to fit his desires, rather than understanding what it is meant to be. This is often seen in relationships, where individuals try to shape another person into an ideal, rather than letting them grow into who they are meant to become. It is seen in ambition, where people chase after success without the necessary foundation, leading to inevitable failure. It is seen in personal development, where impatience causes frustration and eventual abandonment of the journey. A strong man understands that true power comes not from controlling everything around him, but from mastering himself and respecting the way things unfold naturally. There is a reason why nature takes its time. Everything has a season. A child cannot be forced into adulthood without losing the innocence and learning experiences necessary for growth. A skill cannot be mastered overnight without the discipline and struggle that make it valuable. A meaningful connection cannot be forced without allowing trust and understanding to form organically. Trying to rush these things only leads to shallow, unstable results that do not last. The wise man does not attempt to bend reality to his will. Instead, he observes, learns, and moves in accordance with the flow of life. Respecting the natural order also means understanding that some things are simply not meant to be. Not everything is within our control, and not everything we desire is right for us. A man must learn to discern between what is worth pursuing and what should be left alone. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. A fool tries to take everything he wants, only to find that some things destroy him. A wise man chooses carefully, guided not by impulse but by insight. He knows that just because something is possible does not mean it is beneficial. There is strength in waiting, in allowing things to develop as they are meant to. There is wisdom in recognizing when to step back and let time do its work. A man who understands this will not be ruled by frustration when things do not happen immediately. He will not force situations that are not yet ready. He will trust the process, knowing that when the time is right, what is meant for him will come naturally. He will live with patience, with clarity, with an understanding that true success, true love, and true fulfillment are not taken by force, but received through wisdom. Guarding your integrity is one of the most important responsibilities a man has. Integrity is not just about honesty. It is about living in a way that aligns with your values, principles, and the deeper truth within you. It is about being the same person when no one is watching as you are when the world is looking. A man's reputation can be built or destroyed in a single moment. but his integrity is something only he can protect. It cannot be taken from him, it can only be given away, and once it is lost, it is incredibly difficult to regain. Many people sacrifice their integrity for temporary gain. They compromise their values for the sake of approval, success, or personal gratification. But a man who trades his integrity for anything, no matter how valuable it seems, will soon realize he has lost far more than he has gained. A person without integrity has no solid foundation. He may achieve things in the short term, but he will always live in fear of being exposed, of losing the respect of others, and of facing the consequences of his actions. Integrity is what allows a man to stand firm, to hold his head high, to move through life without shame or regret. There will always be temptations to compromise. The world is full of opportunities to take the easy path, to choose convenience over principle, to gain something at the cost of one's own character. The weak will justify their actions, telling themselves that one small lie, one small betrayal, one small act of dishonor will not matter. But integrity is not built in big moments. It is built in the small, everyday decision. Man does not suddenly become dishonorable. He erodes his character little by little, until one day he looks in the mirror and does not recognize himself. Strength comes from holding firm to what is right, even when no one else is watching, even when there is no immediate reward, even when it costs something. A man with integrity does not change based on circumstances. He does not act differently depending on who is around. He does not allow pressure or temptation to dictate his actions. He knows that real power is found in consistency, in being the same person at all times, in standing by his principles even when it is difficult. Integrity is also about how a man treats others. It is easy to show respect to those who can offer something in return, but a true test of character is how one treats those who have nothing to give. A man with integrity does not take advantage of others, does not manipulate, does not deceive, does not see relationships as opportunities for gain, but as opportunities to uplift, to guide, to protect. The way he interacts with people, especially those more vulnerable than him, reveals the truth of his character. A man without integrity will exploit and discard others when it suits him. A man with integrity values people for who they are, not for what they can offer. Protecting one's integrity requires vigilance. It is not a passive trade. It is an active choice made every day. It means resisting the temptations that lead to dishonor. It means being truthful, even when a lie would be easier. It means making decisions that align with one's principles, even when those decisions come with sacrifice. A man must constantly guard against the slow erosion of his character, because once he begins to compromise, it becomes easier and easier to continue down that path. A life without integrity is a life without true peace. A man who has abandoned his principles will always be restless, always searching, always trying to justify his actions to himself. But a man who guards his integrity will find that he moves through life with a clear conscience, with confidence, with a sense of inner strength that cannot be shaken. He will be trusted, respected, and, most importantly, at peace with himself. Because at the end of the day, a man can lose everything, wealth, status, reputation, but if he has kept his integrity, he has lost nothing of true value. Strength of self-control is what separates a man of wisdom from a man of regret. In a world filled with distractions, temptations, and fleeting pleasures, the ability to govern oneself is the mark of true power. A man who cannot control himself is not free. He is a prisoner to his impulses, emotions, and desires. He may believe he is making his own choices, but in reality he is being led by forces he does not understand and cannot master. Without self-control, there is no discipline, no honor, no stability, only chaos. The greatest battles a man will ever fight are not against others, but within himself. The urge to indulge in momentary pleasure at the cost of long-term fulfillment The temptation to act on impulse rather than principle, the constant struggle between what feels good and what is right. These are the wars that determine a man's fate. Many fall because they choose the easy path. They give in to their cravings without thinking of the consequences. They let their emotions dictate their actions. They seek instant gratification without considering what it will cost them in the future. A man who lacks self-control will always be weak, no matter how physically strong or intelligent he may be. He will be ruled by anger, by lust, by greed, by every external force that pulls at him. His emotions will make decisions for him. His desires will lead him into situations that bring regret. He will hurt others without thinking, sabotage his own success, and blame the world for his misfortune. But in truth, his suffering will not come from the outside. It will come from within, from his inability to master himself. True strength is not about suppressing desire, but about mastering it. A man who has self-control does not act recklessly. He acts with purpose. He does not let anger drive his words or actions. He speaks with wisdom. He does not chase pleasure blindly. He seeks fulfillment through discipline and patience. He understands that the strongest man is not the one who can take whatever he wants, but the one who can resist what he does not need. Restraint is not weakness. It is power in its purest form. There will always be temptations, and the world will always test a man's discipline. But the man who is prepared, who has trained himself to withstand these challenges, will not be swayed. He will not be controlled by his impulses, because he has built a foundation of strength that cannot be shaken. He will move through life with clarity, making decisions based on wisdom rather than emotion. He will build rather than destroy, create rather than consume, and lead rather than follow. Mastering self-control is a daily effort. It is not something a man develops overnight, nor is it something that comes naturally. It is built through small choices. The decision to walk away from temptation, the choice to remain silent when anger rises, the discipline to stay committed to a goal despite distractions. These choices, made consistently over time, shape a man into someone who is unshaken by the storms of life. A life without self-control leads only to regret. A man who acts without thinking, who speaks without considering the impact of his words, who pursues pleasure without discipline, will eventually find himself trapped in the consequences of his own actions. But a man who cultivates restraint will find freedom. He will not be controlled by circumstances, but will use them as tools rather than as chains. He will walk through life with a sense of purpose, unburdened by the weight of past mistakes, because he had the strength to control himself before his impulses could control him. A man must think beyond the moment. Short-term pleasures often bring long-term consequences, yet many fall into the trap of seeking immediate gratification without considering what it will cost them in the future. The ability to think ahead, to weigh one's actions not just in terms of the present, but in terms of their lasting effects, is what separates the wise from the foolish. Impulse is easy, wisdom is difficult. A man who does not train his mind to look beyond the present will be forever enslaved by his immediate desires, making choices that satisfy him today but destroy him tomorrow. Regret is born from actions made without foresight. How many people have ruined their futures because they were unable to resist a momentary temptation? How many have thrown away their reputations, their relationships, their potential, for the sake of something that lasted only an instant? The foolish man acts first and thinks later. He indulges in whatever pleasure is in front of him without asking himself if it is truly worth it. He does not pause to consider whether this choice will bring him closer to the life he wants or drag him further away from it. And when the consequences arrive, when the momentary pleasure fades and is replaced by suffering, he wonders how he ended up there. But the wise man does not need to wonder. He already saw where the path would lead, and he chose a different road. Every decision a man makes either strengthens or weakens him. There are no neutral choices. Every action either builds character or erodes it. either moves him toward his goals or away from them. The man who thinks beyond the moment understands this. He does not seek only what feels good today. He seeks what will benefit him tomorrow, next year, and for the rest of his life. He sacrifices temporary pleasure for lasting fulfillment. He does not chase what is easy but pursues what is meaningful. He knows that the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret. Thinking beyond the moment also means recognizing the impact of one's actions on others. A selfish man acts as if he is the only person who matters, making choices without considering how they affect those around him. He indulges in pleasures that may seem harmless to him, but cause harm to others. He does not see the long-term damage he is creating in his relationships, his reputation, and his own soul. But a man who looks ahead sees things clearly. He understands that his actions are not isolated, that everything he does has consequences, that the way he lives today shapes the way he will be remembered tomorrow. Patience is the key to thinking beyond the moment. Many are destroyed not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the patience to wait for what is truly valuable. They take what is available now rather than working for something greater. They settle for cheap imitations of success, love, and happiness, rather than building something real and lasting. But patience allows a man to see past his immediate desires and focus on what truly matters. It gives him the strength to resist distractions and the clarity to recognize what is worth his time. A man's future is built by the choices he makes today. Every action, no matter how small, shapes the direction of his life. If he allows himself to be ruled by impulse, he will find himself lost, confused, and full of regret. But if he trains himself to think beyond the moment, to consider the weight of his decisions, he will move through life with purpose and strength. He will not be easily swayed by temptation or blinded by emotion. He will be in control of himself, and because of that, he will be in control of his future.